We welcome Hari Sridhar to the show. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you. Did you have a nice weekend?
Excellent. Yeah, we were, at a swim meet with, my 7-year-old son, my wife and I, and it was a fun weekend and ready to rock and roll on Monday.
I'm glad you had a good time. Let's jump right into it with our icebreaker question. What is your favorite superpower?
Yeah, that's a good question. I thought about it for a little while, and there's Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, and they're all kind of like physical superpowers. It's like, I'm going to beat you up and be faster and so on. But
that's true.
I think my favorite superpower should be like kind of Tony Robbins style self-belief, but in 2 seconds. I mean, you somebody comes in, they say something to you, and you suddenly believe you can do anything you can, right? It's kind of like a mental superpower.
Okay, so you transfer this belief to other people then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Except not in an 18-minute TED Talk. It's going to be in like 2 milliseconds.
Right, you can like wave your hand.
And I believe kind of thing, right?
Okay. I feel like that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I know. Think about all the superpowers, like faster, stronger, whatever, right? A bigger gun, bigger this, bigger that, shield, and it's kind of getting boring. And they're all physical. It's time for a nice mental superpower.
Yeah, I guess it's because physical is visual, maybe.
And it's also, I'm a marketing professor. I believe in differentiation.
There you go. So I love that. I love that answer. You could also do something like where you would be able to think in like a completely different kind of way. I don't even know what you would call it, but
I know. Well, I guess I'm too mundane for that, but we'll get there one day.
Right. Give us the 2-minute version of your educational and career trajectory.
Yeah. Well, I'm from I'm born in Chennai in India, but grew up in Bangalore in India, and like most Indians, I guess 500 million of them, I'm a mechanical engineer, and after 22 I got my engineering and then figured out what I wanted to do with my life. In fact, I was so much into the whole thing that I was here in the US getting my master's in engineering, and even had a PhD admission in engineering before I figured, okay, this is getting way too serious for not being serious about something.
Right.
And that's kind of when I figured out, okay, there's other things I can do, and then went and got a PhD in marketing at the University of Missouri.
Okay.
So kind of ended up using a little bit of my engineering skills and learned about marketing. So what I end up doing nowadays is using all of those skills and actually building kind of analytical models, quantitative models to help companies spend marketing dollars better. So that's kind of my trajectory, engineer turned professor. I've been in the business school arena now for 15 years.
Awesome. We're going to steal a few questions from a previous guest, Mike Alexander. You've already answered one of these, which was, where did you grow up? But how many were in your family?
Well, it was my mom and dad, and I have a younger brother who's here, works for Apple in the US. Yeah, that's the 4 of us.
Okay. You were the oldest?
Yep, the oldest.
Yeah, I'm the oldest too.
There you go. We are the smarter ones. We always get all the flack.
Nice. What was your first job?
My first job, actually, I never really was in a job till I was a professor. So when I went and taught my first undergrad class and they said, what's your background? And I was thinking, well, I've been in school all my life and I'm kind of going to be in school all my life. So, but actually I did work for 2 or 3 months, and it was probably a life-changing experience and kind of put me into this trajectory of being a marketing professor.
Right.
So like, if you're an engineer in India, you get an engineering job. And I had 2 offers right off the, kind of bat. And I was going to come to the US to come and get a master's. And I had these 3 or 4 month period, lull or whatever you want to call it. And I had 2 offers. One was with a fluid power company. Sounds exciting for a Monday, right? And the other was this kind of what we call B2B marketing research, which, I know market research is a huge industry here in the US, and it's very, very big for kind of B2C, like consumer packaged goods.
Right.
But about 15 or 20 years ago, it wasn't as big in India, and much less so for B2B, So I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. I mean, I'm here for 3 months. I'm off to the US to get my grad education. Let me check it out.
Right.
So that was a 3-month job, but I mean, it's just amazing how it changed my entire career trajectory because, I learned a lot about how companies work and how they listen to customers and how they use that information. And well, guess what? That's what I've done for the last 16 years.
What was the most surprising thing that you learned there? What was the thing that opened your eyes the most?
I think part of it is maybe the educational system in India focuses a lot on kind of technical details, right? And we don't really get to see about sort of how stuff works, how decisions are made and so on. I felt like, right? Or maybe it was me just processing the education that way. But here I could actually see how companies made decisions. It's like, how do I price this stuff? Or how do I get this product out? Or, how do I get my customers to believe in this stuff?
Right.
And that was cool to me because, that's really about persuasion. It's about trying to stand out. It's trying to make sure you clarify how much value you bring to the world. So kind of like human lessons, but also marketplace lessons. And so that's really what got me going.
Would you say that it seemed like you were able to see the forest more?
I think so.
Not lose
probably for the first time.
As much? Yeah. Okay, that's great.
The only other time I think I saw it was in Lord of the Rings or something. So it was pretty life changing.
Nice. I'm going to roll back one more. What was your greatest challenge as a child?
As a child? Sitting still in one place. I think people used to call me like
close
hurricane
to our hearts
and stuff
in this
like
room.
that. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like, even now, I think it's, I just need some excuse to be enthusiastic about something, right?
Yes.
So that's good and a bad thing. I think it gets me going every day, but it also makes it really hard. Like,
Sure.
My wife, for example, she listens to bad joke after bad joke after bad joke every day because, that's just the way I am. So I just can't sit in one place at the same time. And I kind of had to use that to my advantage while being able to focus. That's kind of, I think, how I could, cut it in my career so far.
What made you decide to transition to marketing after your degree in mechanical engineering?
Yeah, I think it was this 3-month experience.
Oh, okay.
It was kind of like the first day on the job, and I go in there and I'm thinking, this is kind of the era when the IT revolution hit India. I mean, it's kind of like everybody and their cousin, is like, okay, they're going and working in the coding and stuff like that. But here I am in a B2B market research company. I don't know what market research means. I don't know what B2B means, right? And they say, go out there and find out everything about sugarcane manufacturers in Karnataka. And I said, what the heck is that, right? They're like, well, you're off on your own. The next week you're off. Go and find out about industrial painters in Vizag in India. And I said, man, these are products I've never really heard about. And yet they're so interesting. There's so many billions of dollars of value being generated through the whole value chain.
Okay.
Let me do something about it, right? And so, that's one part of it. And the other part of it was when I went on a 1-week tour, I started asking these questions and so on and so forth. And I started writing these reports. I'm sure they were crap at the time, right? But somebody somewhere said, hey, these are interesting. Your perspective is interesting and you seem to bring something new. I know, when you have kind of ability and motivation and then you put it together with opportunity, it's kind of, that sparked the whole, like, okay, maybe I should do more of this. But it was kind of too late. Can you imagine? I already had admission to grad school in an unrelated degree.
Right.
And I kind of had this, I really want to do something in marketing. So I went to this engineering school at the University of Missouri, Rolla, and I said, can I take a marketing course? And Rolla it's a town of 7,000 people, 6,800 are engineers, and 200 of them are like pizza stores and stuff that support the engineers.
Right.
So they had no clue what marketing was about. So it became this kind of, let me go and find out more. And so eventually it led to a career. So I feel like I'm really happy I found my calling instead of having to do this all my life and then say, I'm going to do this when I come back home or something like that. Mm-hmm. So that's why I feel a lot of gratitude every day. It kind of just happened without me forcing it.
Let's mine this a little bit. So you went and took the marketing course, and then what?
Well, then I said, I want to learn more and so on. They actually didn't have more courses because I said it's kind of like an engineering school. And so they said, well, University of Missouri, but 100 miles away, there's the University of Missouri Columbia, which is kind of like the flagship school for other, arts right. and this and that. And said, go drive across. So I literally just Googled marketing PhD Missouri. That was the extent of my search for PhDs. And
straight to it.
And literally the first Google search, I called the person. I cold called the person and said, hey, listen, I can maximize, I can minimize. How awesome am I, right? and I want to learn something about marketing, right? And what would any professor, what would I do if somebody called me today on a Monday morning, say I can maximize me? They'd probably say, hold on a minute, and boom. Just, But this person talked to me for 15 minutes. They said, okay, tell me more. Right. And then I said this and this and that. And they said, you're interesting. Why don't you come on down? Let's interview you. You basically have no background. You have nothing to do with this.
You haven't formed any bad habits yet.
Yeah. And you seem very distracted, right? It's like we're having this serious conversation. We're trying to make it funny every 5 minutes. You're like, you're jumping all over the place. Just calm down.
Right.
We can see there's some spark here, but let's work with it. Now, this one person, his name is Murali, turned out to be my doctoral advisor. When I went and visited, he told me this very interesting story, right? And this caught me. Now, it's caught me for 15 years. He said, Hari, the way it works in the US for prescription drugs is, pharmaceutical companies spend billions of dollars trying to get a patent, right?
Sure do.
And so it's like, well, I need my money back, right? After they get a patent, well, the government gives them 10 years time to go and say, buddy, charge millions of dollars and get the money back. Okay,
right.
Good. So they have what you call exclusivity for a period, 10 years, 12 years. Well, if these companies are smart, they want to have their OTC version ready on or about when their patent expires on the prescription drug, because they can now flood the market with the OTCs.
Right.
If they're clever, they'll introduce theirs a year before when they have the exclusivity period, when nobody else can come in.
Yeah.
But if they're dumb, they'll do it 3 years before, and they'll end up losing money on the prescription, right?
Right.
So when did they do it? And I'm like, wow, Murali. He's like, well, guess what, Hari? All your maximizing and minimizing, we can use it, put it to use here. I said, how? He said, well, it's very simple, right? You kind of want to find the optimal time where you don't cannibalize, but at the same time, you get market share in the new market.
Right.
I was done. I was like, okay, what do I need to do? Like, it's like, well, there's something called the GRE. It's like, okay, the whole thing started after that.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, when you find your calling and it's kind of like you're motivated about something and you have the basic skills, things fall in place. You don't have to think about constructing a career.
Let's talk a little bit about the conversation. You said you were jumping around a lot. You were making jokes every 5 minutes. Some of our inside sources, and by inside sources, I mean Shannon Deere, said you...
I had the privilege of riding out with her to, some award function or something like that, back and forth for 4 hours.
Uh-huh.
I thought about it after that. I talked for 3.5 hours.
Well, that's what we're here for. We want to hear you tell your story. So she said you wanted to be a comedian when you were growing up. What are your favorite movies, TV shows? We're going to get back to that question about restlessness. Movies, TV shows, and I'm going to throw in books as well.
Yeah. No, I didn't really want to be a comedian per se, but, comedy fascinates me because it's one of those things that, it's really hard to make somebody. It's really easy to make somebody cry, to be honest. Just have to be really mean, really nasty.
Kyle makes me cry.
There
all
you
the
go.
time.
Yeah. Well, Kyle, you know how it is. It's like you have an easy job, buddy, right? But making somebody laugh is pretty hard.
Yeah.
Right. It's pretty hard because, especially somebody you don't know and stuff like that. So for me, I have what you call a very open-minded approach to comedy. It's like George Carlin, I'm fine. Bill Burr, I'm fine. Amy Schumer, Dave Chappelle, I'm fine. It's like Seinfeld, I'm fine. And, my kind of inspiration was a guy, we don't know much about here in the US, Crazy Mohan, back in India, who was a prolific screenwriter, right? A comic writer who mixed Boardhausian elements, kind of identity crisis, all kinds of stuff in his writing. So for me, I'm what you call super eclectic when it comes to comedy. It can be Mr. Bean, I don't care, right? It's like somebody who makes me smile and can engage me. They have my attention, right? And I think part of that is, we... as professors, the last word that comes to mind, right, when people think about us are performers. We kind of are performers, right? It's kind of like we have a message. I want to take this message through to you. It's a serious message. It's about money. It's about value. It's about marketplace differentiation. But how can I carry it through to you in a way that makes you want to do something about it? And many a time, a little bit of comic relief, humor in the way you engage makes a big difference. People are like, man, this guy's, first of all, he's atypical. Secondly, he doesn't take himself seriously. And thirdly, he's kind of I want to listen to him. Surprise, surprise, right? So I think that's where comic influence came into my life.
Do you find that research, because it seems like you have this driving need to engage with people, and that is, some professors have that, some seem maybe not to. And I think one of the reasons for that is because as professors, it seems like, from what I understand of it, my dad's a professor, and I've been around the academic community a little bit, and it seems like most of the incentives are really aimed toward research. So if you are if you're more oriented toward engaging with people, do you find that makes research more difficult for you?
Actually, no. In fact, I'm glad you asked this question, because there's this kind of myth that, if you are a great teacher, right, you somehow can't do any research, or vice versa. It's like actually not true, because to me, in many ways, and you add service on top of that, right? Whether you're working at a center or whatever, writing a book, to me, they're all part of the same. They're literally part of the same story. I'll tell you why, right? Let's one of the things I research is, why do companies spend so many millions of dollars in marketing without knowing whether it pays off? Right? There's this company I worked with. They're a B2B tool manufacturer in Pennsylvania, and they spent X million dollars releasing an app, right? An app for all the people in their workplace to figure out what tools for their customers to figure out what tools to order, right? Okay. So now usually they have a 600-page manual. I mean, I don't know if think about any tool manual. I'm not getting up in the morning thinking about opening up a tool manual. Right? It's like nobody does that.
I will agree with you on that one.
There you go, right? So it's like, okay, they made this kind of spicy and interesting, a nice little app for customers to look up, and kind of made it like an Apple kind of thing, right? It kind of worked in terms of downloads. Lots of people downloaded it, right? And then the marketing director said, I'm going to go back up to the CEO and ask for $3 more million to, because, downloads are through the roof and so on. And the CEO said, that's all fine. How much money did we make off this, right? Well, she couldn't really answer the question, right? Because it's like, well, I can tell you how it's free. A lot of people download it, but I really can't tell you how much money. So that's the kind of question that I work with companies on, right? And the real way to think about it is, well, how much did it move the needle? People who were behaving a certain way, or how do they behave, right? After the app, right? And can you compare it to a group of people who never had access to the app, and a whole bunch of other scientific stuff around it, right? But think about that, right? That's a research question. That's also a question you can discuss with your MBAs in class, because many of them have, freemium strategies they worked with at companies. Many of them are thinking about starting their own company and launching stuff for free. Right. That's stuff that you can talk to with your undergrads, and that's stuff that you can think about when you work at a center, when you're launching a new product. So to me, it's really what's at the core. It's the idea at the core. The research, teaching, and service are just ways to disseminate it. Think about it, right? A comedian, right? You can be a stand-up. You can be a slapstick comedian. You can be at an arena. You can be writing humor. But it's the way you get it across to people is different. But those are just vehicles. The idea stays the same. So it's really not that if you do research you can teach and vice versa. It's just how you balance these things. And if you're kind of focused on problems, you generally figure out a way to engage, no matter how you do it.
That rings true. One of your bucket list items mentioned in an article on Poets and Quants is to write a screenplay. Yeah. What would it be about? Tell us about what you would want to write.
For sure, it'll involve academics. It'll involve a mistaken identity, and it'll involve the mafia. Those are the three things I know for sure are going to be part of it, right?
I like it already. Academics.
Academics, the mafia, and mistaken identity. Because I think about all the stuff I watch. I spend like 80% of my life in academics. Right. End up watching, Breaking Bad and what have you, and Better Call Saul. And then mistaken identity is kind of like the classic way to get people going with humor, right? So it's got to have all those three. The problem is I'm psyching myself so much. You put stuff on your bucket list, by the way, it just gets worse. Just to let you know. Okay. One way to do stuff on your bucket list is to not say it's on your bucket list. Because now it's like one of those things you got to check off. And it's like, oh my God, when am I going to get to it? And, it's like, oh, let it happen.
Right. One suggestion that I have, when I got into the film and television business, I realized that I needed to write a screenplay. And I had no idea how to do it. And what I realized was the first draft is going to be terrible. And once I acknowledged the first draft will be really bad, what I then said was, okay, if it's terrible, I just need to get it on paper. And then the revision process is how it will actually become the story. So I just held myself responsible to write 4 pages a day. And in 25 days, I had a script. It was so bad. But I hope your ventures in that area are successful.
No, I resonate. Actually, in fact, this is what you brought up is a good point. And many a time, we don't end up, and the same thing with writing, by the way, academic writing. Like right now, my co-author at Rice, Vikas Mithil, and I are kind of working on a book. And
Rice is another place that's close to my heart.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we have the first draft ready, and we, I don't want to say too much about it because, we need to do like this big splash thing when it's ready.
Sure.
But the point is, writing the first draft was extremely hard, right? It was iterative. And so on. So we're at this point where we have something to share, but like you were saying, right? The hardest part was accepting that the first attempt at whatever you do is going to be crap.
Yep.
But unless you do it, you can't make it better crap and then better crap and then better crap and then make it good crap.
Right.
Because that process, I think, is something that I now am more mature about when it comes to writing articles, when it comes to dealing with students. That really we're in a process of revising our first thought, and we're not in the process of brilliant ideas. They just don't happen. They just don't happen. They're for the movies or what have you, right? It's just arduous. There's a great book called The Art of Work or something like that, where this kind of it has this counterintuitive philosophy that listen, working art is about showing up every day. It's about doing your reps, right?
A bad idea brilliantly executed is much better than a brilliant idea badly executed.
Totally agree, man. Totally agree.
So you have revised your way to several impressive achievements, teaching excellence awards at Penn State, Best MBA Professor Award, the youngest to earn the Varadarajan Award for your contributions to marketing strategy. What continues to be your inspiration? It sounded earlier like what you were talking about was a drive to solve problems. How do you think about that? What goes through your mind? What gets you out of bed to say, all right, I'm going to go solve problems and here's why?
Yeah, no, that's, thank you for saying those things. I think, first of all, two things, right? One is some of my peers and, people I spend time with, my wife, she's done some amazing things. My co-authors, my, high school classmates, some of them are, they're leading companies that are going to be worth $1 billion, right? So part of it is just people around you who do great things, right? They just surround yourself with really strong, skilled, hardworking people, and you kind of catch the fever kind of story. That's one part of it. The other part is the nice thing about academics is at least up to a reasonable point, right? Up to a reasonable point, there are some fairly set kind of, milestones, right? Get this done, get that done, up to a point, right? And so in some sense, following on the footsteps of, others who you idolize and so on is kind of halfway there, right? The other part is about finding your own calling. And like I said, there are many ways, of doing your work. Mine tends to be, what's the problem? Can I solve it better than somebody else? Right? And what do I need to do to get it done? Right? That's kind of my approach. And that's never going to go away. Like in 50 or 60 years, if I'm still around, there's still going to be problems. There's still going to, you're still going to have better ways to do it. And you're still going to have to get it done, buddy. Right? So that's kind of that's the other half of it is, all of that is incidental. I'm super grateful. I get up every morning, super grateful. But I also get up every morning kind of stressed that there's so much to get done. So I'm far away from stuff like inspiration and so on. It's just, run-of-the-mill stuff. I think one way I've used that, but channelized it in the right way is to say, let me kind of dimensionalize my sandbox a little bit, right? So I'm happy to do all that stuff, do 10 things a week,
right?
But let's just make sure it's within this arena, because then after 10 years, you can build a body of work, right? It took me some time, right? It didn't just kind of happen. Maybe it happened in the last 4 or 5 years after a lot of thinking about, but there are many people like me, like you, we are wired to just get distracted or to want different things. And that's fine, right? But how do we get a process together to be able to put together a body of sustained and impactful work? I think the way is to just cut out many other things.
Yes. Yeah. In a way, your list of stop doing is as important or maybe even more important than your to-do list.
Absolutely.
So to speak. For our listeners, can you give a quick overview of the courses you instruct?
Yeah, I teach the core MBA class here, marketing management, right? It's, to the incoming first year MBAs, to both the sections. Basically what I teach them is, marketing is what you call customer-based strategy. What do I mean by that? People ask, marketing gets a lot of flack. People think that, you can just put up a couple of flyers, go to a trade show and, do a little bit of Google ads and you're like a marketing guru, right? That's first of all, that's not true. And secondly, marketing as a discipline gets a lot of flack because that's the impression people have of marketing, right? What I try to tell them, and I think they kind of resonate with the message at the end of it, is that finance owns something, accounting owns something, management owns something, marketing, well, we own customers. That's our job in a company. We own the customer. What do I mean by that? It's like, what do customers want? Why do they come to us? Why do they buy from us? And why do they stop buying from us, right? We have got to own that. And if we own that, not only do we bring value to the organization, because they take us more seriously than just people running around from trade show to trade show, but also we get to interact with folks in finance and accounting and management, because guess what? The CFO needs to know how many, whatever customers buy. The accountant wants to know. The management person wants to know, right? So the point is, if you own the customer, you not only establish your identity in the company and your value to the company, but you also actually get to engage at an equal plane with every other business discipline, right? That's kind of the core idea that I put across to them. And believe it or not, many a time they come back and they say, I kind of thought that I'd come by and I learn about kind of 4 Ps or 6 somethings or whatever. But I feel like I now know what it means to a company. So I know it's a little bit of a serious message, but really is, we as a discipline need to understand as a marketing field that we need to take charge of the customer, think from the standpoint of the customer, and we can deliver value not only to the customer, but to the whole company.
Marketing is the front-facing version of all of the output. It's and you could think of supply chain as kind of the front-facing version of all of the input, maybe.
Possibly, yeah.
But yeah.
But it's also very quantitative science. When I say that, it's like, let's say your customers are satisfied, right? Let's say you're Amazon and your customer satisfaction is, some score of 92 on 100. And let's say you're Yelp, or let's say you're, a company that makes peanut butter, right?
Yeah.
Are your customers satisfied? Okay, sure. How much does it mean?
Right.
Top line revenue, bottom line revenue, stock return. We as a discipline in marketing, we have models, we have pretty much everything to quantify how much it's worth, right? Yeah. And it's like, well, we're serious people. We don't kind of just dream up ad slogans and stuff like that, right? We will tell you, we help a company shape its customer, right? Sell to the customer, appropriate value from the customer, and then get more customers. So that's kind of what I go with.
And a lot of it is just understanding how customers think about peanut butter.
Basically, right? It's like, setting the customer value proposition, making it very clear what you do and what you don't, and so on. So that's the core MBA class, and then the PMBA class from the spring. And then I also teach MS Analytics in our MS Analytics program, where we kind of have these, what I call the really weird people, but they're kind of like my super happy zone of people, right? They're people who want to learn about models and quantitative techniques. They have business experience, right? And it's like they want to learn about marketing. It's like, I'm like looking at them, I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's you. That's me 5 years ago. Oh, that's me like 6 years ago. Hopefully not me. I'm just kidding. So it's like, yeah, that's kind of the idea. Those are the courses I love to teach.
In terms of teaching strategies, what do you, other than humor, obviously humor is a big one for you, but how do you feel you teach differently?
Yeah. I think obviously humor is just a way of getting across to people, but I think my core differentiator is practical value. Right, I've now worked with over 50 companies. I have worked on a variety of problems, right? So on terms of, like I mentioned, the app issue and so on and so forth. What I like to tell, whether it's the MBA students or exec MBA students, is practical advice on how to solve a problem. So when I say that, I mean, I don't just say, let me teach you the 8 different ways to create value.
Right.
I'd like to say, here's this company I worked with. Here's the problem they faced, and now let's write it out, right?
So close to my heart right now.
Well, I mean, it's like, who really has the time to come to class and go over the 7 ways? What's the guy, Stephen? Oh my God, I'm blanking. It's like the 7 successful habits. It's like you have Wikipedia of Amazon for that, buddy. It's like, we are done, right? But in class, what they really want, I think, is okay, if I have this problem in my company, can you give me like a 3 or 4 point guide to think through how to solve this, and then tell me how it applies to other industries? It's like I think practical value is most useful in an MBA education or even in an exec MBA education. And so it's like I'm thankful I have a big background in these cases now, having worked with a bunch of companies, but I'd like to make it easy for them to digest and make it very practical for them, because then they walk away feeling like, yes, they learned something, but they have a cookbook, a way to approach this problem. In fact, I was so happy. 2 of our MBA students, they wrote to me, one of them from Microsoft, interning at Microsoft, and the other saying, okay, Hari, I'm actually using these 4 steps. Now, can you tell me how I apply this to, this Microsoft problem? And I'm thinking, okay, good. That's kind of what I want, is for you to actually think about these tools. And then when you go to your internship or your full-time job, actually pull it out and use it. That's like a win for me.
I really appreciate it when things are presented that way in the classroom, because to me, you take a class, when I take a class, I don't know how anybody else thinks about it, but it's, what job does this do? Which jobs will this class do?
Yep.
When I buy something, when I buy a phone, I think, which jobs will this do? One of the reasons the iPhone is so massively successful is because there are 1,000 jobs or 1,000,000 jobs that it can do. My wife has me around so that I can go get her Frosties.
There you go.
She's pregnant right now. Hi, baby. But it's easiest for some people, myself included, to learn when the problem is, when the principle is immediately presented in terms of the problem that it solves, which is what you're doing.
So I think a classic way to think about it is a Harvard Business Review. I'd like to contribute there. I've had the good fortune of contributing to HBR. When you pick up HBR articles, you realize they talk about something profound and important and big.
Right.
But they talk about it to you like neither do they insult your intelligence, nor do they try to act like they're arrogant. It's kind of like this happy middle where they know a lot. They're trying to, get with you, but try to explain something generalizable to you that's practical. That's my ideal class.
Right.
It's like, I'm not here to tell you all the stuff I know, right? In fact, I'm here to learn from you and co-create an experience that makes it fun for both sides.
Right. And helps you understand what questions you should be able to answer coming out of this.
Absolutely.
Any memorable or favorite experiences you've had in the classroom, aha moments or something like that?
Memorable ones, yeah. We had a student who went and I cannot tell you the name of this company because I've signed an NDA with them, but he actually took our customer-based strategy approach and literally implemented it. The exact same thing in his company. Yeah. Blow by blow by blow. It's been an 18-month engagement working with him, and he's been able to move the needle in the company. And then I had one very, very interesting experience at the undergrad level. Right. I had a kid who was, bless his heart, so honest. He came to me and said, Hari, here's the story. This was when I first came to TAMU teaching marketing analytics to the undergrads. He said, okay, Hari, I'm going to be honest with you. My mom and dad looked at the course title. It said analytics. And they said, I have to learn it because in 10 years' time, it's going to be very important. I'm here only for that, for my mom and dad, because they said, you have to take analytics. I hate numbers. I hate analytics. And I kind of just want to make them happy. I was kind of taken aback. This was the first or second class because nobody's really come to me honestly and said, I really don't want to be here. Right. I'm just kind of here because my parent. But after 16 weeks, this guy actually applied to analytics internships. And now he's so that was pretty cool. It's big like, win. Okay, you can actually quantify your, incremental impact on the kids. So yeah, there've been quite a few of these. And that's why it's a fun profession, right? It's like with research, I write something today, like your screenplay, 25 years down the road, you win an award. With teaching, 2 minutes later, they're like, man, you blew my mind. I'm like, okay, maybe we should do more of this, right? So
one of the things that surprised me the most coming in, I talked with Kim over in the Career Management Center, and she said, as we were talking about potential directions to go, I told her I was thinking, I think finance will probably be the direction that I go just because it's where I'll already be working. But there are other possibilities. I want to be open. And she said, I think marketing actually you might decide that marketing is a good fit for you as well. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Because my experience with marketing, especially out on the West Coast, working in the entertainment business, had been more with marketing as quote unquote soft science. And she said, no, marketing is going to be very numbers driven here.
Well, I know a great assistant dean called Shannon Deere. You can go talk to her, apply to the Maze MBA program. Right. You never know.
Yes, never know. You mentioned earlier on that you assist B2B firms, areas like model development, data audits, market issues, and so on. When you were asked to help with a business, what is the first issue you address before anything else?
Yeah, actually, I don't like to talk in the first meeting. I just like to listen, right? And what I'm trying to say there is what we generally work on is this idea of strategic planning, right? Everybody in the world, literally everybody in the world, when you tell them I do strategic planning, they're going to roll their eyes because they're thinking, what the heck is he doing? Strategic planning. It's just it's like two big words. Right?
Yeah, it's MBA speak.
Yeah, it sounds like super amorphous and so on. Most of the firms I work with, we help with what I call customer-based strategic planning, right? And the idea is that they say they do these things, but really what do? They write a mission statement, right? Or they do some budgeting, or they kind of say something wishy-washy. That's 90%, 95% of the companies. So, and our own research shows that most companies who say they do this or actually do this don't make any money doing it, right? And so partly what we do is listen to how they do it. All right. And we see all the loopholes, kind of some of the biases, kind of the artwork behind it. And my favorite word in phrase in class is voodoo science. Most of this is voodoo science, right? So that we listen to them. And then what we try to say is when I say we, it's really my co-authors, my colleagues, and so on, all of us working together with these companies is, do you involve your customers in strategic planning, right? And it sounds like a basic thing. 95% of the companies don't. They feel like, strategic planning is like a thing I do with my CFO and my CMO and CEO. And I'll go and tell my customers we now have a new plan, which makes no sense. It's like if you're cooking a Thanksgiving meal, you kind of want to see if the people coming home are vegetarian, right? It's like you're trying to set up this whole strategic plan, right? And you haven't talked to your customers, you haven't understood what they like, what they don't like, and you haven't understood what to focus on, right? So that's kind of what I listen to, right? And then we kind of have approaches. We now have a science behind this whole process and models and so on. All of that comes later. But first is trying to understand the mentality of the organization is if they're internally focused or actually focused on customers. And you can see that, by the way, I can now tell, talking to companies within about 2 meetings, how they go about this process. You can tell it in an MBA program. You can tell it in a classroom. You can tell it with the way a professor approaches, with the way somebody writes. Are you focused on your customer? It's a basic question, but if you do that, you probably have a very good chance of succeeding.
Any particularly memorable examples of that now interacting with businesses?
Yeah. So I'll give you one example. It's a little dry, but let me try to make it more spicy, right? So this company, it's kind of like what you call an EPC company, engineering, procurement, construction company. And they basically have to make billions of dollars every year because, they're spending billions of dollars every year, right? So how do they make money? Well, they have what you call these lumpy projects. Some projects are 500 million, some projects are 500,000, right? So they every year have to win projects. It's kind of like if you're an agent and you have tons and tons of football players, well, you're not going to have Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. You kind of need all the others as well, right? So, but they have to decide which projects to go after, right? Because you cannot bid on the whole NFL draft. I mean, first of all, you don't have time for that. And the second is you cannot convince anybody that you're sincere about the player. Like, I mean, Jerry Maguire kind of,
right.
You kind of have to make that pitch, make them feel like they love you kind of story, right? So this EPC company goes out there and they bid on tons and tons of projects every year. And the approach they use is some internal heuristic. The internal heuristic is, what do I think is going to happen? Do I feel like we're going to win, right? That's not going to cut it, right? So kind of what we worked with and we tried to establish to them that you want to build a model and all of that stuff. And that's fine, the whole machine learning stuff and so on. I'm not going to go into on a podcast, right? But the basic idea is you want to understand whether you have a good chance. Your customer feels you have a good chance of succeeding on that bid. And if you know that, then you only want to bid on projects where your customer feels you're going to win, which, by the way, turns out to be only 20% of the projects they're actually bidding on. So we build them this model that helps them focus on 20% of the projects, which have, 80, 90% chances of success. It actually helps them bid on just half of what they're doing and double their success, right? So it's kind of like this whole thing, focusing on what customers want, acting on it, and then routinizing that. That's, that was a memorable story because now we have a little model in place for them to actually help them understand when their customers give them a high chance of success and then acting on it, right? So it kind of helps them grow revenue, but also reduce cost.
It seems like then saying that you're only going to win the bid 20% of the time, that you need to be comfortable with swinging and missing.
Well, that's one part of it. And the other part of it is, do not rely on this quote unquote gut feeling or what upper management thinks all the time, because first they could be wrong, and second, it's kind of like once you believe something, you go out there and find evidence for why it works, right? You're never going to be like, oh, I'm going to go out there today and be super open-minded and let everybody in the world tell me I'm an idiot. Nobody works that way. They say, well, I've decided this is great and you're going to come and tell me this is great. That's kind of how most companies work. What we try to tell them is, sure, have that, but also have your customers give you feedback regularly so you can build a model in place that corrects your biases, right? So that's kind of what we do.
Makes sense. Rapid fire. What do you consider your most valuable failure?
There's a kind of a simple one and a more profound one. Simple one was, the standard war story. I've had a year where I had 6 or 7 journal rejections in a row. They all came in the space of 3 months after my wife and I had our, only son who was a few months old. So it's kind of like, it was really tough because you couldn't sleep, because, if you have my wife has to recover from rejection. So that was very tough. But a more profound one, actually, I was thinking about this was a month or two right after getting promotion and tenure and stuff like that. I don't want to call it a failure, but because obviously it's an academic achievement, right? But how I felt after that was so horrible because I realized I'd built up my whole life to get tenure, right? I had taken the whole 9 years, whatever I did just to make that thing happen. And I'm like, oh, nobody's coming to me and like falling at my feet today. Right. And it's like life is going on. Yeah. And then I realized, what I did is I set myself up to say that I don't live up to anything in life. I'm not good enough unless I do this. And that's not kind of how you want to live. Right? That was a big experience for me. Right now, I just got promoted to full about a week ago. It's fine. It's part of the process.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. But it's part of the process, right? It's not like, I need to do this, otherwise I'm useless. Right. I think that was my big learning.
In sports, that's called post-championship depression.
There you go.
It's a common phenomenon.
Except Tom Brady doesn't seem to feel it, apparently.
15 years later, after 6 more championships, he doesn't feel it as much. What do you think is people's biggest misconception of you?
Yeah, I've had I said 38. First 19 years old, up to 19 years, high school. And if you go and talk to any of my high schools, they're like, Hari became a professor. That's the last thing he could become. Like nobody believed that I could actually focus and do anything useful.
Okay.
Right? They kind of thought I was smart, but they couldn't think I could focus. Now, in the next 19 years, nobody believes that I have any interest other than just going to work. Like, I'm like, balance, right? It's like, no, that's my, kind of next thing. It's like mix and match, right?
Sure. If you could have anyone as a mentor for one day, who would it be?
Yeah, that's fairly easy. I mean, it has to be like, somebody like Roger Federer, Serena Williams, even Tom Brady. The point is that what we see is the clutch, right? Mm-hmm. What we don't see is, I'm sure, a very boring, mundane routine of excellence, right? And I wish I could develop that. Like, get up in the morning, do the keto thing, right? Whatever the hell they do, right? And like do all these things every day. So then what you do as clutch, which we all call clutch, is actually part of your extended routine. It's not a big deal for you.
Right.
I would love to learn that. It's like you talked about writing 4 pages a day. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Yeah. Because I have days I write 19 and I have days I'm like, okay, Breaking Bad season 2. Right? It's like clutch. Clutch is a process. It's not an event.
And also what people have historically thought of as clutchness, the idea of getting better, of playing better when the situation is very stressful, or in a championship situation, score is close, 2 minutes left in the game, has sort of been debunked. And the idea that anyone plays better at that point is no one, and the easy place to measure it is basketball. Statistically, no one plays better in a statistically significant way in really important basketball situations. But a lot of people play worse than they normally would. So the challenge is actually not who can raise their level of play, but who can keep their level of play steady while everyone else gets worse because they're stressed out.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Right.
Most important piece of business or career advice that our listeners may not have heard before.
Yeah. This relates to what we talked about earlier, which is everybody makes a to-do list. Like, it's like, okay, I want to be awesome. Pull out a piece of paper and write the 8 things I want to do.
Great.
Write the things you don't want to do first.
Yeah.
What's your not to do list?
Yes.
Right? What are you going to cut out?
Right.
Whether it's, you don't want to eat these things, you don't watch these things. What is it you want to cut out in your life to get better? First of all, it makes your to-do list easier.
Yes.
Because it's like, oh, great, I just have 1,000 more hours in my life to do stuff I want to do. And secondly, it actually makes you introspect about how inefficient you already are. My advisor's research, his dissertation paper published about 27 years ago was looked at companies, 2 companies, okay? One company had $100 to spend, they spend 130.
Yeah.
And another company had $100. They should have split it 80-20 into 2 activities. They split it 50-50. Okay. The company that split the money wrong did way worse, even though they had lesser money, than the company that spent a lot more. In other words, you can spend how much ever you want and be inefficient. That's fine, right? But if you're inefficient just fundamentally, that's going to be horrible. So allocate your resources wisely. That's my main point.
Okay. What is your fondest memory of TAMU?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's so many. We've had, my wife and I have been now, sort of been here 3 years. She's a professor as well in the marketing department. And it's funny, right? It has to be the first time we ever came here. We were both, I was a professor at Penn State. She was finishing up her PhD. We were actually going to be at Penn State for the foreseeable future when somebody here at A&M, Mark Houston, the department head at the time, just called us, said, do you want to come and give a talk? I kind of knew what it was. It was probably a recruiting visit. But we said, whatever, let's just come and give a talk. It's October. Probably the weather in Texas is definitely better than Pennsylvania. And man, blew us away. Obviously the culture, the people, the atmosphere at TAMU, right? The whole thing, just the entire thing, the hospitality, the welcoming nature, and just the positive attitude. And then, of course, meeting Eli and his, you've talked to Eli, that blew us away. So it's not really the first football game or this or that, just the first time visiting here. To all, prospective MBA, PMBA students, your first time is going to be amazing. Come and give it a try.
Beautiful. We close each session with Good Bull. Do you have anyone you would want to send some Good Bull?
There's literally only one. It has to be my wife. Right, and she has a media background. She used to be a news anchor and a journalist, right? And then now she's got a PhD in communication. She's a professor here at TAMU, and basically she's literally been the main reason for everything I've done in for how many 10 years, right? Right from, and she's done incredible things. Like she had our son, and in a week's time, she was submitting her PhD final paper in class, right? She was, go and get it done, get these things done, support him, do what I can do to move my career forward. And it's like, well, I have no reason to be lazy around her, right? She's very inspiring, positive person, cares. And so it's like, makes it very easy for me to be who I am.
Yes. She sounds like a rock star.
She is. Got to meet her. Call her on to the MasterCast.
Right? My wife's a rock star too. I'd like to send Good Bull
she'll tell you she's funnier than me. You guys can find out.
Okay. I like it. The gauntlet has been thrown down.
Well, and good luck. You're having a boy or girl you don't know or you don't want to know.
Oh, no, we're having a girl.
Okay, congratulations.
But we're not, we have picked out a name and we're not telling anybody what it is.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Not yet. I'd also like to send Good Bull to Robert Kelly and Mike Reeser. They've helped us out. 2 of our rising stars. They've helped us out with some work in our growing esports company. So I appreciate you guys.
I know both of them, man.
Yeah.
MBA students, right? I taught them in class and they're awesome kids.
Yeah. Great guys. Ari, thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate
it's a pleasure.
Having you.
Thank you. Happy Monday and keep doing what y'all are doing. There's 5,000 episodes already and keep it going.
5,000. Yes, give or take a few. But yes, appreciate your time.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to stay up to date on our latest videos, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to receive notifications. If you're in a rush or on the road, you can still join us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. If you want to learn more about us or our guests, please visit our website at mays.tamu.edu/podcasts. Also, please check out Mays Business School's academic programs. They're the sponsors of our show, and you can find them in the description. Thanks, and gig 'em.